I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Amy Belair. Be sure and check out my films, Doors of Perception on Amazon Prime, Occult Louisiana's on Tubi, Roku, Apple, and many more. We are booking guests for February. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Amy Belair. She is an oracle, Akashic seer, and host of the Third Eye Awakening podcast. Amy, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's really nice to be back. It's nice to see you again.
It's great to see you again. It's been a while, and the world has changed in profound ways since we last spoke. From an emerging awareness of corruption and psychological warfare to the emergence of AI and a new era of technological manipulation. On top of that, there seems to be an ongoing effort to psychologically steer humanity into a new era of falsehoods and theater and technological control. I can see how, for many, the world can be a difficult place to navigate right now. For myself, it was imperative that I made a spiritual connection. Without that, I was very lost. It was much more difficult to navigate the emerging changes. And today we're going to share your insights and understandings about the state of our realm, the unfolding events. In my perspective, we are extremely powerful beings that have much more control over our reality than the ruling class would have you think. There's a lot to get into with this. Before we do, like I said, it's been a while. Remind the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so here for this whole line of conversation. Well, I'm, a regular person, a mom, a wife. I have a podcast, a main podcast called Third Eye Awakening that I started back in 2019. And I also have another podcast called The Living Oracle, Akashic Guidance for Ascending Souls, which is more of an energy report style podcast where I bring through channeled messages about what's going on right now and essentially how to navigate it. And then I read the Akashic Records. I teach people how to read the Akashic Records for themselves, for others, how to activate their psychic abilities. And essentially, like, my whole goal is to help us remember who we really are, because to echo what you said, I believe that we are far more powerful than we've been led to believe. And many of our memories have been obscured from our conscious, access. And the Akashic Records has been my tool to reconnect with a lot of those obscured memories so that we can reintegrate it into our sense of identity and reclaim the actual creative abilities that we have, which are, go beyond sort of the kind of paltry ideas of what creativity is, of making music or making art or whatever, which are very important acts in and of themselves. But I mean, we literally create this reality. We determine what timeline unfolds, and they don't want us to know that.
How do you feel about the events that have been unfolding over the past few years, the collective reaction to the events, the level of deceptive technology we're immersed in? Where are you at with everything?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. I'm at peace for the most part. There are moments where just the things that are being broadcasted to us kind of rankle me, but it's very temporary. However, I do feel frustrated at the whatever, like a lot of us do. It's hard. I don't really feel like I need to wake anybody up, but it's hard when people are still falling for the deception over and over and over and reacting to the deception and giving the deception the energy that it is seeking. It's kind of like talking to somebody that you love who's in an abusive relationship and they just keep engaging in the drama,
Yes.
and you're like, stop, for the love of God. So that's sort of where I get a little bit frustrated. And with all the rollout, the public rollout of AI, it's even thicker than ever. But the great news is I think a lot of people are seeing through it more than ever as well. Like, being somebody who receives a lot of people who are newly spiritually awakening, I get to see how many people are awakening all the time and kind of cutting right through all of the like baby steps that I took and going right into the holy shit, everything's a lie kind of
Yep.
stage, which sucks for them because that's intense. But it's also great because the more people who wake up, the more the glass ceiling over our creative abilities starts to dissolve, I think.
I think a lot of it is pure theater. What they're presenting online and in the news is not a reflection of most people in reality. I don't think most people are hating each other as much as they'd like to portray, but there is a portion of the population that is heavily divided. I do have friends that a lot of the events are affecting in negative ways, but I don't think it's anywhere near the level that they'd like to portray, that we're about to burst into civil war. But I think what they're trying to portray is that we're already there to keep us in that fear state. But when you go outside, like you were saying, and talk to your normal person, that doesn't really exist in our reality.
Yeah, totally. And I think it even extends to like the global events. Like, obviously, we just witnessed the presentation of what went down in Venezuela. And, we're hearing about the stirrings in Iran and the ongoing conflicts between Israel and Palestine and Russia and Ukraine. And it is made to, I would never deny, without going there myself, I would never deny that those things are occurring because I don't know. I haven't verified for myself. So that's not what I'm trying to imply. But I feel as though the constant like bombarding of our psyche with these catastrophic news reports of like major shakeups around the world and terrible tragedies that are occurring and violence and war, etc., is totally in contrast, as you said, to, for a lot of us, the reality that we're experiencing in our day-to-day lives in our communities. And like even what they're saying about the devastating financial collapse that's about to come and the currency switch out and all that sort of stuff. Again, I'm not denying that that will happen, but as I see more and more of these videos come up, for example, on my YouTube home feed, I'm kind of like, it it just smacks of predictive programming. It like, I know how powerful and creative we are, and I know that when they plant seeds in our psyche, it causes us to interpret the events according to what has been suggested to us as a context, and then it starts to flow in that direction. It's almost like they need us to believe that catastrophe and war and financial devastation is what is happening so that we manifest it on their behalf.
100%. They present the problem, we react, and they present the solution. In your talking points, I know you wanted to get to the false matrix versus the organic matrix. I think this is such an important thing to try and understand. For me, I wonder if in this realm, if it's always been under the control of some sort of parasitic influence, if we were ever sovereign humans, if this was introduced as some sort of etheric parasite, or if it's non-human intelligence is guiding us, because you look at the direction we're headed with everything from our technology to politics to economics. It's extremely anti-human. Very little of what has come out technologically benefits humanity in any real way. it makes me wonder if there is something anti-human guiding everything, and how long has it been in control?
Yeah. I mean, I personally believe that it's non-human. It's a non-human influence. I do believe it's a parasitic influence. I believe it's very powerful. I think the closest it can get to this realm in its natural form is in the fourth dimension, which is the astral. And so it is particularly skilled at reading our thoughts and sort of like reading our energetic fields and using the information, like our own traumas and our own fears against us to manipulate us in the direction of perceiving reality that they want us to go. And I think that it is anti-human. I I refer back to certain Christian, I'll call them mythologies because they're the ones I'm most familiar with, but not because I strictly like I wouldn't call myself Christian, meaning that I don't attend church and I don't rigidly adhere to that as like
The dogmatic
the only truth.
biblical Christianity.
Yes. Yes, but I because I'm familiar with the stories, they resonate with me and I can translate my understanding through them. So I do I do perceive some truth to the mythology of Lucifer and the fallen angels, just insofar as like I don't believe what is controlling us is human. I don't believe it was ever meant for this realm, and I believe that it is like that being is pissed off that it doesn't get to, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like the oldest child who is required to like, have all the responsibility, shoulder all the responsibility and like carry on the family business. And then the younger child is made for this realm and given free will and the ability to create freely. And um, that that being, that consciousness is pissed off and hates God's creation, hates humanity, and wants to destroy it. And again, I'm not saying that's actually what it is. It's just a really helpful framework to describe the themes that I do perceive as actually, playing out here.
If you had to describe the organic matrix versus the false or synthetic matrix, how would you describe each of those?
Yeah. So the false matrix feels to me like, okay, maybe I'll start with the organic matrix. The organic matrix feels like there's a screen over top of it, and that's the false matrix. And mostly what we see is the screen. But if we can see past the screen, there is a reality that we are incarnated within this realm that is extremely abundant. And it is coded for prosperity, coded for, I guess you could say, harmony. It's hard, the English words that we have to describe it sound so like ideological that I feel like things get lost in translation, but the actual template of this realm feels to me like it is an open, organic, living, breathing system where all energy flows in and out of the like beating heart of creation at all times. And there is an equal flow of energy to all aspects of creation. So it's like very healthy and very well resourced all around. And then there's a false matrix overlay, which feels like a shitty Xerox copy that is, it's a very close replica, but it's based on, it's meant to harvest us. So we're kind of trapped within it. It's almost like we exist in this beautiful realm, and then we have a VR headset put over us. And so we can't see this amazing realm of abundance and more that we actually exist within. And we can't remember how we're created to interact with it, to experience prosperity. Because I believe that we really are. Not as an ideal, but as our actual template. And instead, we have this VR headset that projects a simulated version of this realm that harvests our energy off of us and stimulates a lot of fear, stimulates ideas of scarcity. And because of the way that we work, like we're manifestors, we can't not manifest. We manifest all the time. That's just our default setting. So when programs of fear and scarcity are embedded in our psyche, and then they are reinforced with trauma-based mind control, which I believe we're all subject to, then we come to believe in these suggestions of fear and scarcity. So we believe there's not enough to go around. We believe that we are, victims, and we are disempowered, and we're small, and we're insignificant. Whatever they tell us, it's to their benefit for us to feel small and to feel cut off from like the mother, father, God source, to feel like we are alone here and this is a hostile environment. Because when we believe all those things, we create from that, and it continues to reinforce itself, and they just harvest off of our creative energy.
Would you say that the false matrix is purely based off of hijacked perception, being presented certain ideologies and ideas that are so powerful that we then take the reins and manifest that reality that was suggested to us through the psychological manipulation?
Pretty much, yes. And then they reinforce it with trauma, and we're at this point now where we're so bought into it that we traumatize each other and ourselves. So we are just like, it's got so much momentum behind it now. It's so hard for people until they have a spiritual awakening. It's so hard for them to believe that this realm isn't scary and dangerous and hostile. And they also, I think they reinforce it. So it's primarily psychological, but they also reinforce it with, obviously things like toxins at every level in our cosmetics, in our food, in our water, in our soil, in our air. And then like the EMF frequencies, just there's so many discordant frequencies that are being bombarded at us at all times that it also kind of holds us artificially down at a lower level of consciousness than we're naturally created to exist at.
If you think in our ancient past, they were able to completely control and steer the entire planet without access to the level of technology that we have today. What are they capable of now? To what extent can they completely hijack and control the human psyche to attain whatever goals they have?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that part of the reason that they are having to rely on technology and just like up their game, like it's the same playbook, but they are definitely having to sharpen their tools because I believe there is also, this is all part of a greater cycle, and we are in the upswing towards awakening, and that's bigger than, it's bigger than any of us. Like I just don't think they're going to win, so to speak, right now, because it's sort of like, I don't know, we just passed the solstice. It's kind of like the dark battling the light, even though obviously day and night are totally different things. But it's just like the light is prevailing at this time. Consciousness is prevailing. We're on the upswing. So I think they're having to really work a lot harder. Hence, the rollout of AI that has been, obviously they've had it for much longer, and they've only recently shared it with the public, but it's well timed because then they know the public is just going to take it and roll with it. And of course, they rolled it out after they let a bunch of us become online content creators, right? And so people start to feel like, oh yeah, you can make money here. Great, you can quit your job and make money. And in the absence of like a sort of like deep, divinely connected sense of integrity, people just, if you don't have that, then you're in it to make a buck. And it's an attention economy. So they just know that people are going to take it and run with it. And they're going to create a whole bunch of AI bullshit content that just is like nothing, vapid garbage, and confuses, like videos of foxes being rescued from a frozen river or something. You know what I mean? It's not even necessarily like deliberately harmful, as though it's conveying a deliberately deceptive message, but it's still a deception, and it still confuses people's consciousness, which I think would otherwise be just rapidly ascending and awakening right now.
I've been saying lately that we may have entered an era where any type of video evidence being presented has to be questioned. We can't trust any of it anymore. You mentioned manifestation a few times. I think this is a completely misunderstood concept in our modern age. People look at it as woo-woo nonsense at times, but in my perspective, it is our reality, is how our reality is formed. We have more control over what is unfolding than many people would ever realize. But talk a little bit about manifestation mechanics, how we could possibly have more control over this.
Yeah, so we exist, we are in the 0 point field. We think we're not. We think we're in linear time because we experience like life unfolding click by click, cause and effect through our consciousness. However, there's infinite timelines around us, infinite vibrations, infinite possibilities around us all the time. And whichever one we attune ourselves to and give attention to, it begins to grow. And like, it amplifies. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're lending it energy, and so it amplifies. And as it amplifies, we begin to be able to detect it through our senses and manifest it through our senses. And so like we know that our senses are just decoding vibration. It's known. It's not a woo-woo concept. Like, our eyes are decoding vibration. Our ears are decoding vibration. Same for all of our senses. So basically what's happening is we're just picking up on vibrations and we're decoding them. We are translating them into a physical, material, tangible world. It's kind of like that Zen koan of like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it. Like, if there was truly no one around to hear it, the tree is just vibration. It's not even, the forest isn't even there. Somebody, an observer, needs to be there to decode it and render it into a material reality. And that's what we are. That's the role that we play. So I think that manifestation, it can come across as woo-woo. I mean, depending on where somebody is, I think a lot of people see it that way, but also what happens is a lot of people see it in a very superstitious way. Like, they see it kind of almost like a different version of praying to God and hoping it comes true. Or like, if you journal your statement 3 times in the morning and 6 times in the afternoon and 9 times in the evening, it'll somehow magically come to be. But that's not really what manifestation is. It's just understanding how we work and knowing that like we do have the gift of free will, which means we can choose we can choose from a whole infinite sea of vibrational realities, vibrational potentials. And so that's where limiting beliefs come into play, because if you believe that something is not available or it doesn't work that way for somebody like you or whatever, then you can't even detect that vibration. You can't detect that possibility. You're in such a state, like, we are vibrating and other things are vibrating, like potential timelines, potential realities. If you're vibrating at a frequency that is completely discordant to a certain reality, you won't detect it. But that's not because it's not true and it's not possible and it's not there. It's just because you're vibrating according to the beliefs that you hold. And that's where the psychological manipulation of the false matrix comes in, because they're just at every turn planting our psyches with lies, basically.
Yeah. I've experienced this many times in the past. Whatever I'm focusing on or looking into or even worried about shows up more and more in my life. The more I think about it, the more it manifests. And this is being used to corral humanity in different directions. Through my own experiences, if I am afraid of something and I'm afraid of something unfolding in reality or something bad happening, and I'm focusing on that, more and more things will start to manifest that reinforces the possibility of that bad thing happening. And it works the opposite way as well. If you focus on good things, if you focus on the positive in your life and the possibilities of beneficial things in your life, you'll experience those things. And it's not woo-woo. It just seems to be the way our reality works.
Yeah, totally. It's like lucid dreaming. Like there's an element of it that feels mysterious, and I think that's part of the organic realm. Like we didn't just come here to be incarnated in like a pure picnic for all of eternity. I think that we came here to be incarnated in a realm where there is a delay and where there is a little bit of amnesia. And you have to remember, it's like we came for the challenge. But it is like it's like learning how to lucid dream and learning that you can sculpt the dreamscape, in more or less in real time. There's that little delay, but you are sculpting it yourself, but you're sculpting it through your attention, and it's subtle and it's nuanced, and there are mechanics to it, but there's also, all of the subconscious stuff that we've got going on that we don't realize because it's subconscious that's affecting our ability to sculpt this reality. And so I think that's where a lot of people get confused. Like they think, oh my gosh, well, I pay so much attention to, winning the lottery so I don't have to work anymore or something like that. Or so I can finally travel. But that framework is coming from, and then they don't win the lottery, but it's because that framework is coming from the subconscious fear that they'll be trapped in this job forever. And the subconscious like sense of scarcity, and urgency around like not having enough time, not having enough money, and the belief that you need money in order to da 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 da. So there's like all these, different basically false matrix programs going on in the background that affect how we manifest, but it's still the same mechanics. Like we're still manifesting, just like you said, we're paying attention to something and it becomes more. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Something else I've been noticing is as people become more aware of the corruption and the dark aspects of reality, the more I see people looking towards these Gnostic spiritual beliefs, thinking that our entire reality is to be food for the archons, essentially. Even the afterlife, we are deceived by archonic beings that present themselves as our relatives and spank us and tell us we got to do it all over again because we did it wrong. But it's all basically a prison planet, and this is such a dark, bleak perspective. What would you tell people that are going in that direction right now? Because this can even go to contact with beings, channeling paranormal phenomena. Lots of people believe that all of the non-human or etheric intelligences that we can come into contact are really deceptive trickster archons trying to manipulate us, and that we shouldn't have any kind of spiritual communication except with, Christians would say, Jesus, but some would say even that can be infiltrated in some way. So what would you tell people that are heading down that road?
This is going to sound cheesy, but I believe that the simplest, purest default is to love. And if something resonates within you as love, then you're okay. So I believe that there is a lot of deception, and I do believe in entities, and I totally believe that they can, like I carry a lot of caution around like spirit guides, for example, and I teach a lot, like discernment is so important because they can present themselves in whatever way. But I agree, just believing that everything is out to get you is it's also leading you deeper into the false matrix and like away from hope. So The reason I say love is because I had a couple of friends who I really respect present this to me over the past couple of years as well. And I really took it on seriously and did some deep soul searching. And they were essentially saying, like, what if you're part of the deception? Like, what if you are
Right.
deceivable? And so I really had to sit with that and explore whether or not that feels true. And sort of what I came down to is like, okay, let's entertain for a minute the idea that this whole place is a prison planet, and then even the afterlife is a prison planet, and it's hopeless, and it's all an illusion, it's all a lie, and we're just being like siphoned off of the whole entire time. I happen to have children, and my thoughts immediately went to my children, and I was like, but the love that I feel for them is real. So even if, because one of my friends suggested to me, like, well, what if your children are a narcotic deception? And I was like,
Jeez.
the love I have for them is
Yeah.
real, and it makes me more of all the good things inside of me. Like that love feels like the only thing that is real, and it's the thing that I can hold on to no matter what. Um, so then if I continue on down that line, because I've heard that too, and I've listened to, I can't remember her name. I think she's Russian or Eastern European, who talks about not going into the light. Um, I just feel like we're screwed. Like, if we think that way, we're screwed. And if anybody is thinking that way and it's working for you, do you, you know. But what I see is that we do loop around here. We do loop around karmically, and it isn't necessarily part of a the false matrix. I think in a lot of ways we quarantined ourselves because this realm was infiltrated by this dark energy, and it has permeated through all of us. So we all carry an equal propensity for darkness as we do for light. Like I through the life path I've been on, have chosen the light. But if I had been born under way different circumstances, I might have chosen the darkness. It's like I'm not a superior person to those who have chosen the darkness. This is just the life that I'm living right now. I believe we all carry the propensity for both. And so we die, we live these lives, and we live unconsciously, and we've forgotten who we are. There's an artificially heavy veil of amnesia. We don't, like, how many people know somebody who just whatever, like, watched The Price is Right in daytime television every day in the same chair and chain smoked and drank coffee and ate whatever chunky stew for dinner and like festered in uncharitable thoughts and just totally bought into the illusion while they were here. And they died that way. And they died burdened by either regrets or grudges or what have you. That person is not going to ascend out of here. And I don't think that's a false matrix trap. I think that's like we have to work our way up through the, I guess, like the ladder or the ascension of frequencies, like where we can come back into that place where we resonate with love. That's how you get out of here, is you resonate with love. Your heart is light as a feather. I believe that's true. So it just doesn't seem supportive to me to believe that there is nothing and no hope and everything is a harvest and we're just screwed. That doesn't
Yeah,
feel beneficial
I
at
have to
all.
agree. How do you discern the different, we'll just say, beings? I know you channel and you have had experiences with what's considered non-human intelligences. How do you discern their intentions?
Where they're leading me. So where it leads me. And I've gotten to a point where I can feel it pretty quickly. But if somebody's just starting out on that path, for example, it's sort of like, okay, a really good practical example would be like, let's say somebody is messing around with tarot cards and they're kind of in this disempowered place and they're like fixated on their ex and they're doing a billion tarot readings, asking their spirit guide, like, to like to confirm that it's their twin flame or whatever kind of disempowered
Mm.
thing. If it's not, if the tarot cards give you information that brings you back into your own power, you're connected to source or your own actual soul or perhaps your spirit guide. If the tarot cards are just confirming to you that this is your twin flame and you just find yourself drawing tarot cards over and over and over because you're getting this like cheap dopamine
Mm.
hit and it's allowing you to believe something that keeps you in a spiral, keeps you in a loop. Like we shouldn't be looping. We should be spiraling
Mm.
upwards. Or and if we're spiraling, like hopefully we're not spiraling downwards. So for me personally, the things, the fields of consciousness that I have connected to have led me to an increasingly beautiful life at all
Mm.
times. Does that mean that I don't have hard things happen? No, I just suddenly lost my dad this year and then had a
I'm
miscarriage
sorry to
and
hear
then
that.
had like got hit by, oh, thank you. Then got hit by a huge tax bill while I was already going through like a monumentally difficult financial
Mm.
year. And like life is still life, but none of that feels like um it's just I feel like I have health, I have people in my life that I love, I have like an increasingly growing audience of wonderful human beings. My life is so full of meaning. The things that matter are still here and are continuing to grow. So life is still has its ups and downs. Like it
Mm.
was just a hard year. We all have hard
Mm.
years. But I'm not being like taken down into a place of disempowerment and despair. I'm continuously being brought up and up and up, even as life still presents
Mm.
challenges, if that
It
makes
does.
sense.
Have you had experiences with anything that you did question their intentions and stopped communication with?
I haven't. The only thing that I just don't really fuck with
Mm.
pendulums, because I just don't. Sometimes I think it's just telekinesis.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah, yeah.
they
Oh,
move
yeah.
for sure. But for me, I just am like, I think I'm just moving it with my brain. Like, I think that's what's happening.
Mm.
It's just reflecting back to me what I most strongly believe. But I also feel like there's something very disempowering about asking yes or no questions as though something outside of me has the answer. Like, I just believe that the answer is inside of me. And if I go within, I'll find it. By go within, I mean connecting to God, essentially, which doesn't require any tools. But I have had encounters with dark entities. There was in 2021 I had a lot of psychic attacks and a little bit in 2022 as well. And I think it was just an
Mm.
initiation threshold in this path that I've chosen for myself.
I see. Could you tell us maybe a little bit about one of those experiences?
Yeah, I so a lot of them would happen in that space between um falling asleep and like just when you're not fully asleep but you're kind of
Hmm.
asleep, like you're getting into that weird warpy space and like portals opening up in the corner of the ceiling and dark things starting to come through. Or one night I was actually awake and I heard this bizarre, it almost sounded like a gong, but it had a really like minor sort of key to it. And it was super loud. And all of a sudden, this thing was floating down the hallway. And it like I was lying in bed and it just came and hovered above me. And it kind of looked like the cartoon guy from Tales from the
Oh,
Crypt Keeper, back in the
yeah.
day. It kind of had that sort of look. And yeah, there were a lot of things like that. They didn't really feel like they necessarily interfered with my day-to-day life. Like I never felt gang stalked or I've never been, never had the black
Mm.
helicopters show up for me or anything like that. It was more like astral energy. One night I woke up and there was a smoke creature standing and staring at me while I slept. I woke up out of the dead of sleep and saw this thing and it smiled at me and then disappeared. Um, but again, it feels like the more I think we encounter these things as we choose our power and as we choose like faith and I just mean faith in like a benevolence, a goodness, without it having to belong to a specific
Mm.
religion or spiritual tradition per se. As we choose our power, there are going to be entities that have been connected to us and have been like probably harvesting off of
Mm.
us that show up and try to scare us back down
I
into a
see.
sense of disempowerment. And that's what it always felt like for me. And it sort of felt like a test to my ability to not descend back into
Mm.
fear.
I was speaking with a guest a couple of weeks ago about this very thing, how to discern what we're interacting with in these astral realms. She had said something that it seemed very pertinent, that you often hear people in the spiritual community expressing that if you hold a certain vibration, if you hold a certain positivity and love frequency, that you don't have to worry about being attacked by these beings. But these beings do have methods of lowering that frequency by presenting things in your life that would cause trauma or negative emotions. And that is what drags you back down to that frequency where then they can have easier access to you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with that. I have found that cultivating more love inside of myself, like love for myself, and then by extension, love for others, forgiveness and compassion, like for myself and for others, has been the best
Mm.
defense against dark things by far, by far. And I do perceive that like they're very skilled at manipulating us. It's predominantly psychological manipulation, but you know, if somebody is they can get into us in a sense and how would I put it? Almost like puppet
Mm.
us. It's like they, you know, like if somebody, for example, has a lot of trauma and they're super disassociated in their lives, and perhaps they use various substances and techniques to try and, you know, dull the pain that they're feeling that they don't know how to process, um, they become a very, very porous vessel for dark entities to infiltrate. And now it's not like I'm saying that they get completely taken over, but something else can enter and act through their lives. And so if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily feel that way and you're like, well, I don't feel like I have any dark entities coming through me, they can definitely come through other
Mm.
people in your life. Like they can act through others who are open vessels and sort of they have a certain degree of influence where they can sort of affect the physical reality, but they have to do it through us. Like we are essentially the guardians of this realm, and we are the guardians of and the true stewards of free will. They manipulate and influence our free will, and therefore create an effect in this
Mm.
reality.
I want to go back to something you mentioned a few times, timelines and shifting timelines. I've discussed this quite often as well, and there are different perspectives and theories about what could really be happening if indeed there are different versions of us and different realities unfolding at the same time. Several guests have expressed that they've shifted realities using different methods like meditation or entering some sort of altered state. Others believe that we can enter these different timelines just by a shift in perception, or any decision we make on a daily basis will change the trajectory and possibly shift us into a different reality. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it is as simple as the decisions that we
Mm.
make. I believe that there are infinite timelines like being born in all moments based on our decisions, and yet also there are a more set number of probable, highly probable timelines. And our choices are the number one thing that determines which timelines we move into. But the choices, like, so say if somebody wants to shift into a different timeline, they're like, I want a better timeline, I want a higher timeline than this. First of all, you have to not come at it from trying to escape your current situation, because that means you're just giving all your attention to your current situation. You think you're giving your attention to the new timeline, but you're actually giving your attention to the thing you want to escape. And then if you can relax that and soften it, and you want to shift into a different timeline, you have to make different choices. But what really makes your different choices super powerful is that perceptual shift at the level of our identity. So it's like we have to recreate an identity, like let go of the old one that matched the timeline that we've been in, and begin to build an identity that matches the timeline that we would prefer to be in, and make choices from that identity. And it's like little choices, they don't have to be big, huge, like move across the country. Sometimes it comes to that for sure, but it's often just the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we talk to others and the things that we choose to eat. And it's like little things, they all compound. They're extremely powerful, those little choices.
Do you think the timeline shifts can be noticeable or more extreme depending on the level of jump that you're making, meaning they could have physical changes to objects or locations or people in these different timelines?
Yeah, I do. I do think so. And I think to an extent, our brain will smooth most of those
Yeah.
changes out. So we won't even fully notice them, because it would create too much like cognitive dissonance, essentially. So our brain is really good at processing our reality fairly smoothly. But I have timeline shifted, and was, I didn't fully know that's what I was doing. A, and B, therefore it was very uncomfortable. Like, it created a lot of things that I had to grapple with and adjust to. But even down to like physical differences in your reality that you can't account for. There's no logical explanation, but just like, a difference in like the color of your best friend's car. Or one woman shared with me a story of like having always known the passcode to enter into her friend's building. And she was going to a dinner party, and she entered the passcode and it was different. And she called her friend who gave her the passcode, and she asked her when she changed it. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I never changed it. So little things like that is where it will kind of bleed through. And I think those are almost ourselves winking at us and being like, this is way cooler and way weirder than you thought it was.
Yeah, I heard a theory recently. One of my guests, Anthony Peake, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he recently wrote a book called Cheating the Ferryman. And he proposed that, based on scientific experiments that he's been looking at and different theories that he's been studying over the years and people's experiences, that it's possible if we experience an untimely death, or it's not our quote-unquote time to go, that we will just pop into a different version of ourselves and not even be aware that that other version died. It's not until we fulfilled whatever our purpose is here that we actually move on or exit here, which I thought was a very interesting theory. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've always thought that. I remember when Heath Ledger died, and I just had this like, I wasn't even like a huge Heath Ledger fan, but I just remember hearing about it and being like, oh, he's not gone from all the timelines. He's just gone from this one. And I don't really even know where that thought came from, because at the time I wasn't really, spending the majority of my cognitive energy pondering these things. But I also had a dream a few years ago wherein my dad was driving the vehicle and my son was in the front seat, my oldest son, and then I was sitting in the back seat between my two youngest. And it was absolutely vivid, totally linear, crystal clear, and we went through a guardrail and fell to our deaths. And it was terrifying. And I woke up all kinds of screwed up from that dream. And I think that's how it works. I think that there's like a final exit point
Mm.
where you're done with all the potential timelines, but there are different, like multiple deaths depending on the parts of ourselves that are in different timelines.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Along those same lines, the phenomena of walk-ins, a different, completely different person or being walking into that physical body after a person either dies or has a traumatic near-death experience. I've had a couple of guests on that claim to be walk-ins, that claim to be different beings than they were originally incarnated as in that body. Is this something you also think is possible?
I do think it's possible. Yeah. I mean, I have no personal experience with that at all, but I do think it's possible that when one person's consciousness dies, but there's a possibility for that, like that body to continue,
Mm.
that somebody else can just come in.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. So many great possibilities to consider. This realm is so much more interesting than anyone could imagine, in my perspective. Let's talk a little bit about the 5D timeline. I hear this often in metaphysical and spiritual circles, claiming that humanity will eventually, quote unquote, ascend to 5D. And again, this is another one of those topics I think many people misunderstand greatly about what this concept really means. But in your perspective, what is the 5D timeline?
So all the timelines that we've been talking about so far are all fourth dimensional timelines. You'll hear a lot people talking about the shift from 3D to
Mm.
5D. But the 3D is just physical, it's just physicality. It's like it's ourselves in the physical as the experiencer, the observer, the chooser. We don't really want to escape that. And that's not really where we're trapped. We're trapped in the 4D. All of the loosh harvesting happens in the 4D. Everything that feels like a prison planet is happening in the 4D because that's where the story exists. And all of our identity constructs and all of our dramas and our traumas and our loops are all happening in the 4D. The 5D, to me, based purely just on my own, like, I guess you could call it investigations, but it's just my continuously unfolding, process of consciousness expansion. The 5D feels like where you layer by layer leave behind all that 4D stuff while you're still incarnated in a human body, and you get to this frequency, this level of consciousness that is predominantly heart-based, and where your mind is no longer trying to micromanage and control everything about life. You don't try to predict things anymore. You're not operating out of fear and scarcity. And you also kind of don't really like fully buy into yourself as a
Mm.
self, like playing a temporary
Mhm.
character. And so you're in it, but you're not attached to it. And then you start basically like that's where I think we sync up to the organic matrix. And matrix is like the root word is mother. So that's why I don't just call it the matrix because I see that it's almost like we're in like this beautiful like womb, like we're incarnated in the matter mother. And there's a false matrix that prevents us while we're in the 4D consciousness from really understanding how abundant this place is. But at the 5D level of consciousness, it's where we start to remember everything that we're actually capable of doing. And I mean, like, things that it will blow our minds. Things that I've seen is that we're able to, build build incredible structures using our voices. We're able to open portals using our voices. We're able to communicate telepathically, which is being further substantiated by the Telepathy Tapes podcast. But I believe we're all able to communicate telepathically. It's just that, it's it's being brought forward by those who are in close relationship with nonverbal human beings. So they don't have the option to use language like we do. But we have abilities that far surpass anything we have been allowed to think about ourselves, light years away. We have to rise through these basically layers of false matrix programming sludge that we buy into in the 4D and get to that place where we're predominantly attuned to the truth and you feel truth through your heart. So when you're in the 5D, it's sort of the best of both worlds where you can be incarnated in a human, like an individual experience. You still have free will, but you understand what a mighty longsword free will is. You understand how impactful you are. Like, we are all highly impactful, no matter what we're doing. Our choices are so impactful. And so you understand it and you steward it with reverence and you create from a whole different level of motivation and consciousness. And I believe that there are many of us that are moving in that direction, and we're beginning to remember how to activate these technologies within us. And, I think that this is the year where we start to build the scaffolding, as it were, of the fifth dimensional manifested reality, where it starts to become something that we can interact with beyond just a concept, where it's something like tangible, so to speak.
Amy, this was great. Before I let you go, any final thoughts, anything upcoming that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you again so much for having me on. And yeah, I mean, my final thought is I just think that we're so much more powerful than we've been led to believe. And if we can just orient ourselves in that direction and start to reclaim that power little by little, then we can reclaim this realm, and we have the actual power to manifest a much more beautiful reality than the one that we have been subjected to. And if anybody's interested in hearing more about the false matrix and how to emancipate yourself from the false matrix, I have a free masterclass called Fuck the False Matrix that you can check out. And it's kind of where I go deep into, what it is and how it affects us and how we can continue to exist here and not be trapped by it.
I love it. Before you go, remind the audience how they can get a hold of all your content and find out more.
Yeah, the easiest place to go is my podcast, Third Eye Awakening, and then you can check out my website also. It's amybelair.com.
Perfect. Amy, thank you so much. We'll definitely be doing this again. Much more we could get into. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Hello friends, I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion. Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.